down.
Hello, everyone. So as usual, we will start on time for this last lecture. And I hope that, well, this time the sound will not have any more problems. So can you hear me clearly? Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. So today, actually, we are trying to somehow combine all the things, all the concepts or methodology we learned in this course to a new scenario. All right, so this new scenario is called scheduling. All right, so you see that the subtitle of this topic will be Game Theory in Scheduling. Somebody told me there are some black blocks on the screen. Let me stop it and share again. Stop sharing and then share again. I don't know whether that's the chat box. So so do you still well, let me see. Oh, okay, that's a chat box. So let me, and now it's okay. So iPhone said it's okay now. The chat box is gone. The black box. Okay, how about others? Others fine too? Oh, good, good. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's start with some basic terminology, all right, before we dig into those game theory related topics. Now, scheduling, what is scheduling? Well, actually, scheduling is very useful in practice, and perhaps it's the most useful theoretical model to capture real life scenarios. Now, scheduling has the following scenario. We have M parallel machines, all right? So these machines, they can be identical or different. And then we have a set of jobs, and each job has certain parameters. Now here we have 4 parameters. We have arrival time, RJ, and the deadline, DJ, which is the last one, right? And then, so other than these two, so this basically tells you when does the job arrive. And Jenny told me you cannot see the sharing slide. Oh, let me stop again. Let me share that. Just discard. Share the. Not this one. Oh. Wait, what's the problem? Sorry, I probably need to figure out what happened. We close those windows and open again. Okay, so how about this time? Can you see the second page, classic scheduling problems? Can you see that? Can you see my drawing blocks? So I move it. This block is really disturbing. Okay, how about now? I'm moving the chat box to the very upper right corner. So can you still see the blocking box? It's really weird. Let me hide the video. Okay, so if I move my chat, I'm moving my chat box. Can you see the black box moving? I'm moving on the upper right corner. Okay, good. Then I just put it there. All right, so I just put it there. Unless somebody send me a message, I will not bring it back. Okay, so I put it to the very upper left, upper right corner. So now you can see my drawing on the page, right? So the red interval. So basically, every job has an arrival time. It arrives from this point, and then it will go be active, and then it will leave the system at this endpoint. Okay, and then the every job will have a processing time, Pij, and this Pij means job J. If it is processed on machine I, then how long it takes. Okay, and then there is also a value Vj associated with each job. So no matter which machine, executes the job, the value will be the same. Okay, so this is a basic setting. And then we say a job is completed if somebody, right, some machine process that job for Pij so much time during this job's active interval. Okay, so now of course the symbol here is a bit inconsistent. It's RJ in the previous slide. So so this AJ is arrival time, DJ is deadline. So basically for job J, one machine needs to complete the workload within this interval. Okay, within this interval. And then we use CJ to represent the completion time of job J. And then if the job is not completed, then it's just infinity, right? And then in scheduling community, there are two possible execution modes. One is called preemptive. So preemptive means after I start a job, if some other job, which is more important, comes into the system, then I can interrupt the earlier job and do the new job first. And then later on, after the new job is finished, I come back to execute the old job. So we could do some kind of a breakpoint. Okay, so for job 1, if its total processing time is 10, I can complete 3 first, and then interrupted by some other people, and then back again to complete the remaining 7 units of execution. Okay, so this is preemptive. And then there is also another mode called non-preemptive, which means as long as you start executing a job, then you have to run it until it completes. Okay, so this is the two different modes. Okay, and then when we talk about the system objective, then usually we will consider the following three. Now, of course, there are more, but I'm not listing all of them here. Now, the first very common objective from the system's perspective is the make span. All right. So make span, I believe that earlier in the approximation algorithm topic, we already explained that, right? So it's the longest. So it's the last moment when the machine is active, right, or is still doing jobs. Okay. So a machine does several jobs and then it completes at some moment, and this moment is called make span, right? And then we also have the total completion time, which is summation of the completion time of all the jobs. And then there's also another one which captures how long the jobs wait in the system, right? So it's called total flow time. So flow time means the completion time of job J minus the arrival time of job J. Okay, how long it waits before it completes. Okay, so this is the traditional objectives. And then the target of this topic or this subject is to schedule some jobs to maximize the total value. Okay, so we want to pick some jobs to execute such that the total value of the jobs is minimized, is maximized, right? So we try to make it as large as possible. Okay, and then we have two different parties in the system. One is machine, the other is a job, right? Okay, so let's look at the machines first. What's the machine's objective? The machine's objective, it tries to minimize the workload assigned to it. So basically, if the machine can choose to do nothing, then it will be very happy, okay? It does not need to spend any energy, okay? Now, but there are also cases where you pay the machine for the jobs they do, right? Okay, so when that happens, then the machine's profit, okay? The machine's profit will be payment, the money he receives minus the workload that he receives, okay? So every machine tries to maximize this profit. And then with the same background as in other mechanism design problems, we will assume that the machines here are selfish, all right? So they can report some wrong information to maximize its profit. Now, in other words, machine can hide or misreport the processing time of different jobs. He can say, okay, this job runs very slowly on me, so I don't want it. Okay, I report a very big PIJ. All right. Okay. Now, any question up to now about the basic setting? Now, at least for the machine, from the machine's perspective. So now machine can cheat or lie about its running time on different jobs, right? Okay. And then we have two parties. The other party is objective of jobs, right? Okay, so what's job's objective? Well, job's objective very naturally will be to minimize its own completion time, okay? So on which machine he will complete first, then he will go to that machine, all right? So he has a very strong incentive to do this. And then if, on the other hand, if he can be finished, right, then it will always be better than not finished, okay? So in other words, the profit of the job is VJ if it's completed. Otherwise, it's 0. All right. Okay. And then again, if you have some payment, right? For example, the job needs to pay the system in order to get done, right? And then the job's profit will be its value minus the payment it pays to the system, right? Okay. Now, again, if we consider jobs as selfish, then jobs can cheat about its personal information, right? For example, arrival time, deadline, value, and the processing time on different machines. Okay, so this is the possible cheatable information, right, for jobs. Okay, now here in the scheduling problem, we also will consider Nash equilibrium. So Nash equilibrium says no agent has any incentive to change its strategy while others do not change, right? Okay, so this is I guess this concept I don't need to review anymore, right? Everybody knows. And then here, our aim is to do what? Well, because machines can be selfish, jobs can be selfish, So people can say, can we design mechanisms where machines will not cheat, right? Or misreporting will not be beneficial, all right? On the other hand, if our focus is on jobs, then we can say, can we design mechanisms where misreporting jobs information will not be beneficial for them, right? Okay, now at the first part of this lecture, I'm talking about two separate worlds, all right? Either machine can cheat or jobs can cheat. So they are not doing the cheating at the same time. Okay, and then for Nash equilibrium, there are just some further concepts or review, right? I guess you still remember what is POA, price of anarchy, which means the worst possible Nash equilibrium compared to the socially optimal solution, right? How bad the Nash solution will be. Yeah, so you're asking whether the mechanism runs on some third-party job matching platform. Yeah, so basically, this mechanism is run somewhere else, such that when you have some output or suggestion by the mechanism, then the algorithm will start allocating jobs to different machines for them to be executed. All right, so this is run by some third party. Indeed, it's not run by these M machines. Okay, it's run by some CPU outside. Okay, and then okay, so POA is the worst possible Nash compared to social optimal, right? Okay, then now a very brief or 0.5 bonus. What's the other P for characterizing performance of Nash equilibrium? This is POA, right? Okay, so Jensen, you got the bonus. Okay, so the other one is POS, right? Price of stability, which captures the best Nash equilibrium compared to the social optimal, right? Okay, so here let's briefly talk about two possible models in this scheduling problem. One is called congestion model. The other is sequencing model. All right. Okay. Now, congestion model says the following. Now we have selfish jobs. All right, selfish jobs are choosing machines, and then the utility of the jobs is the completion time on the chosen machine. But this completion time is the overall completion time. So which means if a job goes to a machine and this machine are also doing other jobs. So when does the machine finish executing all the jobs allocated to it? And then that time will be the target for a single job to minimize. Okay, so here it's not minimizing its own completion time. It is minimizing his machine's processing or the completion time. Okay, so this is the utility of the agents. And then the objective of the scheduler is to minimize the make span. Okay, now here there are a bunch of results. So basically, I'm not talking about details, just showing you that, well, if you want to measure the performance of Nash using POA, right? And then actually there are different results. And here we also will explain the difference between the identical machines and the related machines. Okay, so what does identical machine mean? Identical machines means that the processing time of different job of the same job is the same on different machines. Okay, so basically every machine is the same. It takes the same amount of time to do the same job, right? So when that's the scenario, they have POA results like this, upper bounds and lower bounds, right? Okay. And then on related machines, so related machines mean every machine has a speed. Okay, so if a machine has a higher speed, and then the processing time will be some fixed value divided by that speed. Okay, so the higher the speed, the shorter time it will take the machine to do the job. Okay, so the reason it is called related is that every machine has a speed. So basically, the running time of the same job on different machines, they're somehow correlated, right? So they follow the same trend, right? Faster machine always run this job faster. A slower machine always run this job slower. Okay. Now, of course, there is another one called unrelated machine, which means the processing time can be arbitrary, right? For same job on different machines, there is no relationship at all. Okay. Now, sequencing model is what? Sequencing model is that the jobs, all right, they only care about their own completion time, okay? And then when that happens, you see job, well, it no longer says that the machine takes a long time to do all the jobs, then it's no longer bad for this single job, because it may be the case that this single job is arranged to be scheduled at the first position and it can finish very quickly, right? So here for sequencing model, jobs, they only care about their own completion time, and the system's objective is to minimize the make span, okay? And then, well, you need to decide when a certain number of jobs, all right, a bunch of jobs are allocated on the same machine, then in what order they will be processed, right? So this is something that you need to take care of. And for sequencing model, there are also some results, right? So actually there are some kind of traditional rule. The first one is called shortest processing time first. So on the same machine, if some job has a very short running time, then they will be arranged earlier, right? So to be executed earlier. And then there's also a longest processing time first, okay? The one who has the longest processing time will be arranged earlier, okay? And then using these different algorithms, people have derived different bounds for different types of machine environment, right? For identical, related, or unrelated. Okay, so again, I'm not going into details. It just shows you that people can prove that the POA will be in a certain range, right? Some upper bound and also some lower bound. Okay, so now let's go into the first category of problems called selfish machines. Now in the selfish machines problem, there will be n jobs, all right? And then actually here, we assume that there is no deadline or value, all right? So now we are simplifying it to only only having one parameter, arriving time, okay? And then every machine will claim a processing time, Tij, for the job J, okay? And then the scheduler will assign jobs to the machines and will decide a payment. And the objective of the scheduler is to minimize the make span, okay? And then we will use Pij to represent the actual processing time and Tij to represent the reported processing time, okay? So remember, T is reported, P is the actual processing time. And then we use Xij to represent whether job J is assigned to machine I. And then this Fix is the payment, all right? Payment to machine I. And then we have the utility of machine I being payment minus the total processing time of the jobs assigned to it, right? Okay, so this is a payment. This is a total processing time. So then the difference will be the gain, net gain of the machine. And then make span, make span is just the summation of all the jobs processing time on that machine, right? Okay, so this is the total execution time, right? Okay. And then if you don't have payment, then, well, machine will be will have a very easy job. They just claim Tij equal infinity, right? If I claim I have an infinity processing time, then I will not get anything because the scheduler's objective is to minimize make span. If somebody said this job takes infinitely long time on me, then, well, they will never assign it to this machine, right? So cheating becomes very easy for the machine, and therefore we have to adopt some kind of payment, right? So the question is whether we can have a scheduling algorithm together with some payment function that can give you a truthful mechanism, right? Okay, now of course the answer is yes, and we are going to explain some part of it. Now, back in 2005, people proved that if your scheduling algorithm wants to be truthful, then it should be monotone. And this is a sufficient and necessary condition. Okay, so what is monotone? Well, monotone, the official definition is very complicated, but it has an intuitive explanation. Okay, now here, Xij means whether I give job J to machine I, right? And Tij means the processing time of job J on machine I, the reported one, okay? Now, this summation tells you what? Well, we have a prime here, right? Prime means after, well, another, or after you misreport, or another profile, okay? So prime means your solution for another profile. And then the variable without prime means the solution for your current profile, the current input. Okay, and then intuitively, so let's first talk about intuitive explanation. So intuitively, it means that if job J is assigned to machine I, when this machine declares the running time to be Tij, then if the machine says, okay, now it takes me shorter time to do it, so my actual running time is shorter, all right? And then when this happens, job J should still be assigned to machine I. So this is the so-called monotonicity requirement or monotone relationship, okay? So basically it says that if I tell you the truth, okay, I tell you the truth, it takes me three hours to do the job. And then in this case, you give me the job. And then I say, I tell you, I only take 2 hours to give to do the job. You should still give it to me. Otherwise, I will cheat. Okay. So how can they cheat? Well, this one probably will not talk about it here. You may think about it, but this is the what they proved, the equivalent relation, equivalent characterization of a truthful mechanism. When can machine tell the truth? Well, only if your scheduling algorithm strictly follow this property. Okay. When machines report a larger value, you give the job to it. Then if he reports a shorter value or a smaller value for the running time, you should still give the job to this machine. Okay. Yeah, any question about this monotone property? Now, when you look at this expression, you may have some feeling about it. Okay, so let me explain a bit about each term. All right, about each term. So you see this term, suppose Tij is larger. All right, Tij is larger. Tij prime is smaller. Okay, and then it says if when you report Tij, I give the job to you, which means Xij equals 1, right? This equals 1. And this is larger, right? So this is larger than 0. This whole thing is larger than 0. Okay. Now, in order for the inequality to hold, because this is less than or equal to, right? You have a second term larger than 0. First term is 1 minus something. So if this 1 minus something, this something is 0, then the whole term will be positive. That's not good. We want it to be negative, right? Somehow negative. So that forces Xij prime to be 1, 2. Okay, so this is the intuitive explanation about one single term, all right, about one single term. So when for this Ij, right, for this Ij, you give the job J to machine I when he reports the truth, right? This is 1, right? And then after he changes to a smaller value, Tij prime, you should still give it to him, right? So you should still assign 1 to Xij prime. Otherwise, the whole term becomes positive, right? Okay. Okay, so I see some question. Is this limited to SPT first? Actually not. We are not. So for this type of problem, we are not talking about scheduling rule. Okay, so basically you just assign jobs to machines, all right? And then Senior asks, can it be understood as give job no matter how Tij is? Well, so it's not no matter what Tij is. For example, if Tij equals 3 hours, you give the job to the machine, right? And then if the Tij is 5 hours, you do not need to give the job to the machine, all right? So it's only one direction, all right? When your Tij is 3 hours, I give it to the machine. Then if Tij lowers to 2 hours, I still give this to the machine, right? Otherwise, in the other direction, it's not true. All right. Oh, so Wing Chun is asking why Tij decreases. So actually, it's just dealing with 2 possible reports, right? Because remember, Tij is reported value from the machine, right? From the machine. So we are just saying that suppose Tij is larger and then Tij prime is smaller. So in this case, in the Tij larger case, if you give the job to the machine, then in the Tij prime, which is smaller case, right? A smaller one, then you should still give the job to the machine, right? Okay. Yeah, so there are also some other comments. Oh, okay. Yes, Jianchong, you're right. Okay, so that's just the other way of the other direction of understanding, right? So if when 3 hours, right? So when T is 3 hours, you didn't give the job to the machine, then if T is increasing, you should still not give the job to the machine, because that's the kind of other direction of the theorem, right? Okay, you're totally right. So it's basically let me draw a figure, right? This is Tij. This is Tij, right? So this is Tij, and this is Xij, right? Okay, so that basically says your Tij, if at some moment you give it to the machine, which means Xij equals 1, right? And then all the part before that should be 1, all right? But on the other hand, if at some moment you didn't give the job to the machine, and then all the future segments should be 0. So when your Tij is larger, right, compared to this point, and you should also maintain at the 0 level. Okay, so basically the curve should be something like, well, firstly, keeping at 1, and then at some moment you drop to 0. After you drop to 0, you always drop to 0, or you always stay at 0. Okay. Now, of course, this is only for the moment when other people's T or your reported value for other jobs, they are all fixed. When they are all fixed, then with respect to a single dimension, Tij and Xij, and then this curve looks like this kind of thing, right? Looks like this, right? The whole curve looks like this. All right. Okay. Any other question? So Wei is asking. So what do you mean by the condition will be less than? Oh, okay, I see. So less than 1. So less than 1 will happen when Xij is 0, Xij prime is 1, and then Tij is small, okay, and Tij prime is large. Let me see. No, this is not true. Well, yeah, it's a very good question. I didn't realize the possibility of negative value, because everywhere we see equal to 0, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Jianchong is writing 0 minus 1 times 1 minus 2. But there is a problem because when you for a larger processing time, you give the job to the machine. Then for a smaller running time, you should also give the job to the machine. So in other words, your first entry cannot be 0, it should be 1, right? Okay, so well, so let's just put this one aside for a moment. Try to figure out. Well, let me see. Oh, Ian is giving us another one. Oh, good. Yeah. So actually, we should use a -1 minus value, or a negative value multiplying a positive value, right? Okay. So I guess this is the right interpretation, right? 0 minus 1 times 2 minus 1. Okay. So with the larger value of T, you do not give the job to the machine. And with a smaller value, you give the job to the machine. So 0 minus 1 is -1, and plus times 2 minus 1 becomes a -1, right? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So so this is the monotone property. So I hope that after the whole discussion, it's even clearer to me, to you, right? What it means, right? Okay. So let's just move on a bit to see how to use it. Now, for this problem, people developed some truthful mechanisms, and they show that no truthful mechanism has an approximation ratio of less than 2, right? Even on 2 machines. And then this one will show. And then later on, it is improved to a lower bound of 2.414 for at least 3 machines, and then further improved to this value for arbitrary number of machines. And then the positive news, the positive side, there is a truthful mechanism with approximation ratio of m. All right. And then actually, when m is equal to 2, this is optimal because the lower bound is also 2, right? Okay. So let's see some the example. All right. So now finally we are going into some example. Now this example has 3 jobs, and every job has a processing time of 1 on any machine. So actually, it's a very simple scenario, right? And then for this simple scenario, there are altogether 2 possible ways to schedule the jobs. What are the 2 possible ways? The first way is I schedule all 3 jobs on machine 1. Okay. Now, when this happens, we say, okay, let's use the monotonicity. Let machine 1 claim a shorter running time for job 3. Okay. Let it claim T13 is equal to 0. Okay. And then, according to monotonicity, we should still allocate all the jobs to the first machine. Why? Because you see, when machine 1 says my processing time is 1, you give the job to it, right? So now I reduce my processing time to 0, you should still give the job to machine 1, right? So this way of using monotonicity is very straightforward, right? It's just a single parameter. Machine 1 cheats to have a smaller running time on job 3, then it should still get that job, right? Now, then we look at this profile. This profile says that you give all the jobs to machine 1. But in this profile, actually the optimal solution will do what? The optimal solution will split these 2 jobs, right? He would allocate these 2 jobs to different machines, and that will give you a make span of 1, right? Okay. But your algorithm can only do what? Do 2. So that's why we know that algorithm return a solution whose make span is 2, while optimal solution gives you a solution where the make span is 1. Okay, so that gives the ratio of 2 for the approximation, right? Okay, so any question about this first case? If, right? If when everybody has running time of 1, you give all the jobs to machine 1, then we have this following argument. Okay. Let me just issue a questionnaire to see whether you understand this example or not. About this example, the ratio of 2, is it okay? Yeah, so it's about 6 to 4. So I would like to ask, for those who didn't get it, what's the problem about this argument? Now, is it because the monotonicity one is not very clear? Now, remember that why the left side is 3? Why not consider left 1? Okay. Okay. If you consider left 1, you cannot derive a ratio of 2 because the left 1, you give all the jobs to machine 1, but the optimal solution, the best it can do is 2 jobs on one machine and 1 job on the other machine. So basically optimal is equal to 2 and algorithm is equal to 3. That can only give us a ratio of 1.5, right? Okay. And then why the left side is 3? So actually, this is only one case. As you see, this is only one case, case 1. Case 1 says, if your algorithm give all the 3 jobs to one machine, and then we can have the following argument, right? Okay, good, very good. I believe that now it's much clearer, right? Okay, yeah, so this is the first one. Now, very interesting, right? Even for the second case, we can also argue. Now, but this second case has some kind of a tricky part, all right? The second case is, my mechanism allocate 2 jobs to machine 1, 1 job to machine 2. So this is without loss of generality. Okay, so basically, well, if it's reversed, it's totally symmetric. That's totally fine. So now let's imagine another scenario. So let's imagine a scenario where machine 2 claim T23 be equal to epsilon, which means it claims to be epsilon. And then T21, T22 is equal to 1 plus epsilon. So he says, okay, these 2 jobs, for me, it's 1 plus epsilon. Now, this time, we need to call the monotonicity property in a very explicit way. Now, this one, I will explain a bit how it is derived, all right? Now, remember, these are new values, right? These are new claims. And then earlier, we have some kind of a x minus x prime, right? And then some t minus t prime, right? They add up to be less than or equal to 0. So what is the x minus x prime? So basically, we can reverse the 2 sides, right? We can reverse the 2 terms, and without hurting anything, right? We can reverse these 2 terms. The symbol is, well, the equality sign is still there, right? So now it just means how much did your running time increase? So for T21 and T22, the running time increases by epsilon, right? Because earlier they are 1, and now it becomes 1 plus epsilon. So the increase will be epsilon. And what's the increase of x? So earlier I didn't get a job, right? So earlier I didn't get a job, so it's 0, right? Now, did I get a job? I don't know, but I know now my chance of getting job is x21 prime, right? Okay, so basically for the x term, it's x21 prime minus 0, x22 prime minus 0. So the 2 terms, right? Difference of x multiplying difference of t, they end up with this summation. So epsilon is the difference of time, and the x prime to 1, you can consider it as difference of x. And then you multiply together, add them up, it should be less than or equal to 0. And then there is still one more term. This term, actually, at the beginning, it's on the right side, right? Now we move it to the left. So when it is on the right, you can imagine it should be something like x23 prime minus 1. And then epsilon minus 1, right? So I just reverse this term, right? Okay, so this is correct because epsilon is your new time, right? Epsilon is your new time. 1 is your old time. So new time minus old time. And then this new allocation minus your old allocation, because in the old allocation, machine 2 gets the job 3, right? Okay, well, so that explains. Well, at least you are now somewhat persuaded this is correct according to monotone property, right? Okay, and then this one actually, it can be further argued in the following way. So this value, 1 minus epsilon is a positive number. This is a non-negative, non-positive number. So basically, you multiply them together, it should be less than or equal to 0, right? Now, this one, because this allocation is 0 or 1, this is 0 or 1, so this one is larger than or equal to 0. So with this chain of inequality, you should guarantee that all the middle terms will be what? Will be 0, right? So that means x23 prime should be 1, x21 prime should be 0, right? This should be 0. This should also be 0. Okay, in other words, your allocation didn't change, right? Okay. Well, of course, if you use an intuitive understanding, you at least can argue that this job 3, after machine 2 misreports, this job 3 should still be allocated to machine 2, right? But you are not sure about the other 2 if you simply use their argument. So this one makes the whole thing complete. It tells you, okay, actually the whole allocation didn't change. Not only job 3, it's actually all jobs remain at the original machine. Okay. Well, so now you see, for epsilon less than 1, it's quite straightforward. well, I didn't get the point of straightforward thing. So yeah, but anyway, let me just complete this one. Okay. Now, with this argument, you see that in this new profile, the allocation your algorithm generates is the following, right? The make span is 2. And then the optimal solution should be, this is 1 to machine 1, and this one you should move it to machine 2. So the make span of the optimal allocation should be 1 plus epsilon, right? So this will give you a ratio of 2. Again, 2 over 1 plus epsilon. It's arbitrarily close to 2, right? So this is case 2. When you divide the jobs into 1, 2, right? Into 2 machines, and you still cannot be better than 2 approximation. That's how they prove the lower bound of approximation is 2. All right. Okay. Now, clear about this argument. So I guess this example is still within the understandable zone of the problem. Others, I'm not expecting to explain them to sufficient detail. But this one, I believe that it's still manageable, right? Okay. Yeah, any question up to now? Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm asking some question. How you are confused about how the original allocation is decided by the algorithm. So actually, we are enumerating. Okay, so it's kind of your algorithm. I don't know how your algorithm would do. I just try to enumerate all the possible scheduling algorithm you may give me, or you may give for 3 jobs, 2 machines. And for each of them, I argue that, okay, if you do this, then your ratio cannot be better than 2. If you do that, your ratio also cannot be better than 2. Then that means no matter what you do, right, my ratio will never be better than 2. So this is the reason, okay? So it's not like you fix it, all right? You decided the algorithm do this, and then I have some argument following, okay? So it's not like that. And Jian Song is asking, OPT means the largest make span. Oh, OPT means the smallest make span, not largest, right? OPT means the best make span you can achieve. Make span we always try to minimize. So it's the minimum running time, minimum possible maximum. It's quite twisting. Minimum possible maximum completion time on any machine. Okay, seems to assign the very small part to 1 is still okay. What do you mean, Yuqi? Assign the very small part to 1 is still okay. You're talking about this picture, the right one? Yeah, still 2. So you're talking about if I give this part to machine 1, right? And then give this one to machine 2. Okay, yes, yeah. So basically the small one, you give it to 1 or 2 in the optimal solution, actually it doesn't matter. It's the same make span value, right? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, and now let's see how about the upper bound of M. Upper bound of M actually is derived by greedy algorithm, okay? So the greedy algorithm says at each moment, all right, I assign a job to the machine that processes it the fastest, okay? So in other words, actually it's for each job, okay? For each job, which machine will do it? Well, the fastest machine will do it. So that's the greedy algorithm. Okay, so the smallest Tij over all the I, right? And that machine will get the job. Okay, and then it is monotone because if you, for example, if now you are the smallest running time, if you claim to be even smaller, you are still the smallest, right? So monotone property is very naturally satisfied. Okay, so if you are the smallest, you get a job, and then you claim to be even smaller, and you still get a job, right? Because it's still the smallest. And the approximation is also straightforward because the algorithm will in the worst case, will be the summation of minimum Pij over all the j. Okay, which means although your machines can do jobs, right, concurrently, right, but let's just pretend all the machines, they do jobs sequentially, right? And then your make span will just be this time plus this time plus this time plus this time and plus this time, right? So you just say, oh, I'm just being very pessimistic. Okay, I cannot do jobs concurrently, and I just align them sequentially from the beginning to the end, and that time will be summation of j of all the mean, right? So your algorithm's performance will never be worse than that. And how about optimal? Well, optimal actually has a lower bound. Although optimal has m machines, but the total processing time of the m machines will also be this value, right? Okay, right? Because this is the minimum possible total running time optimal can ever do, right? Because, well, every job, the minimum running time is the mean, right? So you have to add them up together. And then after you add them up, you can imagine, suppose my optimal solution is very powerful. You can just distribute the load very evenly to the m machines. And then that will give you the 1 over m factor, right? So optimal will be at least this amount of value, right? And then you see that these two values, actually, they differ by a factor of 1 over m. And that's why the ratio is m, right? The ratio is m. So this seems a bit easy, right? Okay. Yeah. And then, well, how much do you charge people? Okay, so after this, we'll take a 5 minutes break. So after you assign the smallest running time, well, after you allocate the job to the machine which has the smallest running time of job, right? Okay, how much do you charge him? Well, I'll pay him. Okay, so the payment will be the smallest claimed processing time from other machines, which means we are using the so-called second price auction, right? So you're bidding, right? Say, oh, okay, I say, I need 3 hours. You need 5 hours. The other person needs 6 hours. Then I give the job to the one who needs 3 hours and pay him $5. Okay. And then you can very naturally see this is second price auction is always truthful. So people will not cheat, because if they cheat, for example, I'm a 3, I cheat to be still less than 5, then my payment didn't change. If I cheat to be larger than 5, I will lose the job. I didn't get any payment. Oh, that's not good, right? So it's very similar argument as second price, or actually the same argument as second price auction. Okay. Well, so I guess that's that's the end of the first session, and we'll come back after 3 minutes. Oh, sorry, 5 minutes. And meanwhile, I would like to do some rehearsal of final exam. We just figure out the focus mode. Yeah. So would you mind opening your? Let me see. Let me bring up the window first. How to bring back the window? I got lost. Yeah, here. Okay. So can you open your camera for a short moment? Let me change the meeting to focus mode, and then try to see whether you can see other people's video. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I just switched that. So can you tell me whether you can see other people's video? Can you see other people's video? No? Good. Okay, so remember that I sent an announcement in the Canvas, right? So we are using focus mode for final exam for invigilation purpose. So you don't need to record anymore. You just connect your second device to Zoom, all right? And then we will use that for invigilation purpose. Okay, but remember the angle of the second device will still be the same as the midterm. Okay, so I guess that will save you a lot of effort. Yeah, now, actually, yeah, so let me see whether Mattia is here, because I need to. Not here yet. Yeah, so I believe it shouldn't be no problem. I believe the co-host can see your video still. Yeah. Wing Chun is asking, exam will be in the same way as midterm. Same way means what? So final exam, I do not require recording anymore, but camera angles, second device camera angles is the same. And joining Zoom will be a bit different, because now I require joining Zoom with both your devices, not only first device, but also second device. Okay. So in other words, we can see your second device angle, the full environment, and yeah, you cannot see others. You can still, but still you need to make sure that that iPad screen and your actions are very clearly recorded. And by the way, as I announced in the Canvas, you need to join Zoom 30 minutes before the exam starts, so that we can let you know whether your angle is okay or not before we start the exam. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so feel free to turn off your camera if you want. Also feel free to leave it on. Well, anyway, you can only see your own and me, right? Okay. Yeah, so let me move the box away to the upper right corner again. Okay, now let's just very briefly go through the randomized mechanism. Now remember that in the last lecture, we talked about randomized mechanism, especially truthful expectation and universal truthful. So I hope you still remember, right? Okay, so actually for scheduling field, you also have this kind of truthful expectation and universal truthful mechanism. And then because you use randomization, the ratio could be potentially smaller than 2. And actually the results we obtained, not we, okay, so they obtained is improving this upper bound further to 1.59. And then the lower bound is to -1/m, okay? So these are about universal truthful. Okay, so now let's move a bit forward to the related machine. The related machine, it means that the machine has speed, right? So as I said earlier, every machine I will claim a speed Ti. And then the real speed is Si. Now the running time, actual running time will be Pj over Ti. Okay, so basically every J only has one parameter now. So this one parameter will be the same for all the machines. But the processing time on different machines will be different because they have different speeds. So the actual processing time is Pj over Ti. Okay. And then again, you will assign jobs to machines, and then you need to decide a payment, and then objective is again minimizing make span. Okay, and the utility would be payment minus the time you spent on that machine, right? Okay. Now, for unrelated machines, the earlier results, remember that the approximation ratio is M, right? And the hardness is 2, right? Low bound is 2. And actually for related machines, the upper bound is much, much better. You have they first have a 3 approximation, and further has a p-TUS, which is 1 plus epsilon approximation, right? Okay, and then of course that one is in expectation, but later on people developed the deterministic one. Okay, so basically you see that when machines are related, they become more friendly to the mechanism design problems, right? Okay, so now we come to selfish jobs. So when jobs are selfish, what will happen? All right. So again, here we only will briefly mention, talk about the setting. Now here we have, well, these are same, right? These are same information. You have a value, you have arrival time deadline and a processing time. And then we will add some restriction on the possible misreport. For example, we do not allow job to report an earlier arrival. Okay, why? For example, the job's actual arrival is here, actual deadline is here. And then if he reports earlier, then it's very likely I start doing the job here, right? But that's not allowed because your job is not ready. So reporting an earlier arrival time does not make sense. And also reporting a later deadline is also not, it also does not make sense because then I may schedule a job here, but that's already violate your deadline, right? Okay, so reporting earlier arrival, later deadline, they do not make sense. And also reporting shorter processing time does not make sense because then your job cannot be finished, right? Okay, so you see that these three dimensions, each of them has a restriction on the direction you can misreport. And then here we have M identical machines, and jobs, selfish jobs will arrive online. All right, and then the scheduler is trying to maximize the total value of all the jobs completed. So in other words, the objective now becomes some kind of throughput, right? How many jobs you can complete, right? How valuable a job set you can complete. And then for jobs, each job will try to maximize this value. What's this value? So this value is, well, QJ means whether this job J is selected to be done, right? If yes, then it's 1. Now, basically, if it's selected, then you will get a value of VJ. But then you need to pay the system some money. So this FJ is a payment. So after subtracting payments, then the job will get some net gain, right? So every job is trying to maximize this net gain. Okay. Now, we have a, well, greedy algorithm, which can give you a 2 competitive solution. Okay. Now, again, this is because it's online algorithm. So we talk about competitive. We do not talk about approximation, right? Okay. Now, what does the greedy algorithm do? Well, this is a unit-sized job. So every slot, you need to decide to run a job, right? And then greedy says, okay, at every slot, I run the job with the highest value. Okay, so this is a greedy algorithm. Now, this greedy algorithm is too competitive, which we will explain a bit later. Okay, now, but greedy is monotone, so it will be truthful. This is again implied by some earlier the earlier results we explained, right? Okay. Now, now we talk about this monotonicity, right? Implied by the dominance. Okay, so basically, these 2 rectangles, right? The bigger rectangle has an earlier arrival time, later deadline, higher value. Okay, so monotonicity here will very naturally become the following. It will say, okay, if your mechanism choose a job when the rectangle is small. So in other words, if you choose this job in your solution, then if this job is larger, then you should still choose it because it's more valuable, right? And is it more flexible in time? Then why not choose it, right? Okay, so monotonicity will mean the following, right? The one I just explained. Okay, so, right? So you see this, right? If you schedule this job when it's small, then you should still schedule it when it is big, right? Okay. Now, of course, you need a carefully designed payment function, but we'll not talk about the payment function in detail. We'll only discuss about the simple payment function. So what's the simple payment function? Well, the simple payment function says your payment should be whether you are completed or not. If you are completed, you will pay. If you are not completed, you will not pay, right? Okay, and then what's the other factor you need to multiply? Okay, so the one you need to multiply is the so-called threshold value. Okay, so the threshold value will still allow you to be chosen by the algorithm. If you bid the value to be lower than this, then the algorithm will no longer choose you. So basically, you have a value, okay? You have a certain value. So this is a bar, okay? So the value bar, V. So you have a value, okay? So you say, okay, maybe I will decrease my value. I will claim I have a smaller value, and then you still choose me. Okay, I claim to be even smaller, you still choose me, okay? But at some moment, if you cross some bar, if you cross this bar, okay, I cross this bar to be below, then I will no longer choose you. because you are not valuable enough for me to choose you. And then stop. Okay, you cannot further decrease. And then here, there is a so-called threshold value. So this threshold value will still allow you to be chosen by the algorithm. And below that, you will no longer be chosen by the algorithm. Okay, and then you will be paid by that value. Or you not paid. Okay, you will pay that value. So it's something like a second price, but it's more general. Okay, in the second price auction, remember, you have say 10, 6, 5, right? Okay, so second price says, okay, I ask you to pay the second highest bid. And this one actually can be considered as a special case of threshold value, because this 10, if it drops a value to 6.1, he will still get the item. It dropped to 6, will still get the item. But if it drops to 5.9, he will no longer get the item. So 6 is this bidder's threshold value to get the item, right? Okay, so you can consider this threshold value is more general, right? More general than the second price auction. Okay, now remember, today I'm not going to technical details a lot. I'm trying to bring up some very useful concepts that people will use in analyzing something. And those high-level concepts, they are mostly manageable, all right? And this is one of them, so-called threshold value. Okay, so the value below which you will never get the item. And above that, you will get the item. Then you'll be paid that amount, okay? Well, so yeah, so the other things I will not explain further, all right? Okay, so actually, it seems that I'm opening a wrong file, but it didn't matter because yeah, I should open the right one. Let me just stop sharing first. I should open the right one. This one is the one I uploaded to Canvas, but that one is contains too many things. So I will share the new one. My mouse. Okay. Yeah. So can you hear this slide? Can you see this slide? Greedy algorithm. Seems that my chat somehow dies. Sorry that the Zoom is just not responding just now. Let me share the slide again. So can you hear, can you see this slide? Greedy algorithm is? Can you see now? Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, so it seems that the Zoom is not very stable after I switch some slide. Okay, it's good to know that it comes back. Now, now we talk about the greedy algorithm, right? Okay, so the greedy algorithm, remember, it selects a job. which has the highest value at that moment to be done, right? Okay, now it's too competitive, and the reasoning is also very easy and interesting. Okay, so how to reason it? Now, you know, optimal solution also select some jobs, and then we try to only look at those jobs that are selected by optimal, but not selected by your algorithm. Okay, which is this one, optimal / A. Okay, I'm looking at this one. So optimal / A, they must be somewhere, right? Okay, there's job here, there's a job here, there's job here selected. Okay, now you see, because you are greedy, right? So in these time slots, algorithm A also select some jobs, right? For sure. Now, which job does the algorithm select? Well, the algorithm must select some job which is better than optimal, right? Okay, because algorithm is greedy. Among all the jobs which are available now, algorithm will select the best one, but optimal may not select the best one. So that's when these two solutions do not agree with each other. But algorithm is taking advantage. He is selecting the best. So the one selected by this one is higher than the one selected by OPT. Okay. Now, of course, the proof I'm showing here is only a rough proof. It's not a very rigorous proof. Okay. Now, so for all these jobs, right? For all these jobs, at those moments, the algorithm is selecting some better one. So you will have the relationship VOPT / A is at most VA, right? It's at most VA. It will not. It has no chance to go beyond. Now another one, you know, optimal solution is consisting of two parts, right? One part is some jobs in A. The other part is some jobs in OPT / A, right? Okay, so for this part, you're already bounded by VA. And the other part, VA, is naturally bounded by VA. So that's why it gives you a 2 approximation, all right? So this is rough proof, not rigorous, as I mentioned, because there are some kind of a detailed issue you may worry about, especially, well, not first moment, maybe this moment. There may be some tricky thing to argue, right? Not very straightforward. Okay, now this is about 2 approximation. Now, for unit-sized jobs, there are some results. So especially when you allow, for example, the job to restart. Okay, so you can preempt, right? You can say, I do some job for a moment, and then I decided to use another job to replace it. Okay, and later on I will restart the job. Now there's a 5 competitive algorithm and also a lower bound of 5 for this kind of mechanism. Okay, so I'm not going to details. And then when you have arbitrary size jobs, and then they have some kind of hardness results and also positive results, which, well, both of them are constant, right? Lower bound and upper bound. Okay, and then when you have arbitrary size job, and then you need to consider something like called slack, and then you will have some other complicated concepts called beta committed, and then basically it tells you, well, how certain that this job will be done in the future, right? So it's basically this kind of concept. And then this, well, so just to summarize a bit, right? Now for this model, where jobs can, they have no deadlines or values, and they try to minimize their own completion time, and the scheduler is trying to minimize the make span for all 3 different machines model. And then, well, are there any truthful mechanisms? Now, actually, we have derived some greedy algorithm before for another setting, and then for this setting, we are allocating a job to the machine that can minimize its completion time. So earlier, actually, we are not talking about jobs care about its own completion time, because, well, for that greedy, it's kind of a machine, it's machine's objective, right? But now it's the job's objective. Job's objective is to try to minimize the completion time, and then you can just let the job choose which machine to go to, and then well, go to the it will go to the machine with the earliest completion time, right? Okay, earliest completion time of the job itself, right? Okay, and then the competitive ratio of the greedy algorithm is the following, but I'm not going to talk about the details. Okay, now another thing is about the concept, which is very interesting. So when jobs can choose machines, right? So when you have a bunch of machines ahead and the jobs will choose, I will go to this machine or that machine. And usually machine can post a price. It says, okay, if you come to me, you need to pay this amount, all right? And then if you have this kind of posted price mechanism, then sometimes you can achieve better competitive ratios, all right? Okay, now about the posted price, there are also two categories. One is static price, which means the price on the same machine will never change. And then the other one is called dynamic price, okay? And these prices will change depending on the current schedule, all right? So the high level concept I would like to bring up is the static price and dynamic price thing. So basically by using dynamic price, you are able to adjust the price so that future jobs maybe have a less chance choosing you because your price may be too high, right? And then he will choose other machines. So this is another high level idea. And then Feldman et al., they showed some constant competitive algorithm by using the dynamic prices. Now, another high level idea I would like to share with you is the guessing optimal technique. So what is this? Well, so there's one famous algorithm called slow fit. All right, so it runs in the following way. So we'll guess an upper bound for optimal first. Okay, he's guessed, okay, I think optimal solution has a value, a make span of say 100. All right, I have a guess. And then it will schedule the job on the slowest machine without violating this upper bound of 2 times that value, okay? Well, so basically I put the job in the slowest machine, and then as long as the 2 times bound is not violated. But if no matter which machine I put into, I will violate the 2 times the original bound requirement, then I will double my guess. I will double this value to the next one. So as I said earlier, your beginning value may be 100, right? And then if at some moment, no matter which machine you put the new job on, the make span will exceed 200. And then you say, okay, now I update my guess of the optimal to be 200. I'll double it, right? So this doubling technique is very useful in the analysis of online algorithms. But again, well, due to the limited time, I'm not going into details, but if you're interested, you may go to take a look about these techniques. Okay, well, but in this special scenario, if you simply do this, then it's not truthful. So people will cheat. Okay, now how to make it truthful? So basically, the trick is to use dynamic price. Okay, so using dynamic price, you can, I'm not going into details. So using dynamic price, you're able to force the job to go to some machine by setting the price in a certain way, all right? If you do this, then, well, the slow fit will become a so-called flex fit, right? And then this flex fit is able to achieve a good competitive ratio, all right? At the same time, it's truthful, all right? So this good competitive ratio would be worse than slow fit, but now it is truthful. Therefore, it's still good, right? Because our target in mechanism design is to guarantee people will not cheat, right? Okay. So now, in the end, I'm coming to a combination of the two. So actually, this is our work 3 years ago, probably. And then because at that time we're thinking, actually, I believe you're also thinking why we need to separate the two worlds, right? Why do we need to separate jobs and machines? Why we only allow one party to cheat? The other has to be honest, right? So our effort to combine the two worlds is not very successful, but at least has some breakthrough. Okay. So now, now actually the background is very similar, right? But now we have some kind of two sides problem, right? Not only one side. Now we have machines, right? Each machine has a speed. So basically we're talking about related machines. And then we have n jobs. any job has a processing or has a workload, PJ, okay? And then we try to do the jobs on machines without preemption or migration. So here there is one thing called migration, which means, so no migration means you cannot shift the job from one machine to the other, to another. It's not allowed, all right? Now, in other words, we are trying to distribute those jobs to machines such that the make span is good, right? Okay, so this is the goal. And then, well, the history we already explained, right? And then, but then the novelty in our work is that we also consider the jobs, okay? So the jobs can cheat about their processing time or the workload, okay? So now jobs get the workload and machines have the speed. So basically they are competing, right? So basic, the PJ is the workload of a job. The job, they can cheat. And then SJ, the speed of machine, they belong to the machine, all right? And then jobs' purpose is to minimize their own cost. And the cost is the job's completion time plus maybe some payment, okay? So this is the payment job needs to make to the system, okay? And then, well, so as we already discussed in the first hour, right? There are already truthful mechanisms dealing with strategic jobs. And then machines, they can also cheat, right? So the assignment of the jobs to the machines together with payment should make sure that, well, should guarantee machines are truthful, right? And also we have already explained there are a lot of works along that direction. And then the other one has more relationship to the fair division topic we talked about in the 2 weeks ago, all right? So we also want the assignment to be fair, okay, or stable. What does it mean? It means that somehow I do not want the people or machine to be too different in terms of how many jobs they get, okay? So now it's the world of the both, right? Both machines and jobs, they're controlled by strategic agents. And then what's the target? We want to guarantee jobs are truthful. They will telling you the truth, right? Tell you the right workload, the PJ, right? Okay. And then machines, we are not that aggressive to study truthfulness because that's very difficult to achieve. So that's why people in the old times, they do not tackle the combination of both. Now, but the other one, probably we can do it. So the other one is called well-behaved, right? So well-behaved is a property which can be explained like this. So if a machine has a faster speed, supposedly he or she should get more workload because, well, it's kind of, you should give a capable person well, a bit more work to do, right? Because he or she is more capable. Okay, so that's our standard definition of well-behaved. So it basically says a machine has a workload no smaller than that of any slower machine. Okay, so if a machine has a speed 1, a machine has speed 2, right? A machine of speed 1 get a workload of 100, and machine of speed 2 cannot get a workload of 99. Okay, that's not fair. Okay, we should somehow guarantee this is at least 100, right? Okay, so even 100 is not very fair, but at least it's better than 99, right? Okay. Now, so the well-behaved mechanism will, well, has the potential to guarantee fairness among the machines, right? And the good news is that in some cases, it can also imply truthfulness, right? Machine will not cheat. Well, that's perfect, right? But actually later on, we'll show that this is only limited to very, very special cases. Okay, and then we are comparing our mechanism output with the optimal offline make span. Okay, so the question is, well, if we want to have well-behaved mechanism that is also truthful for strategic jobs, then how good the make span can be, right? So we want to guarantee some good properties, and then we need to sacrifice the optimization objective, right? Make span should be somewhat bad, but not too bad, right? We try to guarantee that. And then actually well-behaved property is very difficult to achieve. Now we can have the following example. Now, if you want to maintain well-behaved property, then your approximation ratio or competitive ratio should, will be very big as square root of m. Okay, so here is the example we constructed. So in this example, we have a bunch of machines, and the speed is something like this: 1 plus 1 over 2 to the m minus 1, 1 plus 1 over 2 to the m minus 2, and in the end is 1 plus 1. So the top one is slowest speed, and this one is largest speed, and this one is largest. Okay, so with this bunch of jobs, you can do you can do the following. So we construct jobs with size equal to machine speed, right? Job J has a size or has a workload the same as the speed of machine J. So you can imagine in the optimal solution, what's the make span? Number of jobs is same as number of machines, and they correspond to each other, right? One job corresponds to one machine's speed. Yes, very good. Wing Chun said 1, right? Okay, good. So, so the optimal solution is 1, right? Okay. Now let's see how bad will well-behaved schedule give you the make span. Okay. So the make span, let's imagine the jobs will arrive in increasing order of sizes. So that means it's this way, right? From S1 to SM, right? This order. Okay. Now, the first job, definitely I should give it to the fastest machine, because otherwise it will be unfair, right? It will not be well behaved. Agree? Because, well, just imagine there's only one job, right? You can only give it to fastest, because otherwise if you give it to this one or this one, it will violate the definition of well-behaved, because well-behaved says if you have a faster speed, you should not have a less workload compared to slower machine. So definitely, the first job goes to the fastest machine, right? How about second job? Where does it go? 1, 1, 1. Where is 1? M. Okay, still fastest. Oh, all right. So the second job, it still goes to the fastest. Why? Because second job size is larger than the first job's, right? So if you give it to the second fastest, then the second fastest machine has a higher workload compared to the first machine, to the fastest machine. But then that's again not good, right? So the second job should still go to the fastest. Okay. Well, third one, this time is okay. I can put it here, right? Finally, the second fastest machine can get some job, right? Okay. How about fourth one? Oh, fourth one has a similar argument. You cannot put it here because you put it here, this machine has a higher workload than the fastest machine. That's not good. You cannot put it here because what? Because then this machine has a higher workload compared to this machine, but this one has a slower speed. So it's again not good. So basically, you cannot have a rectangle, right? You're gonna say the fourth job, I cannot put it on second last machine. I also cannot put it on the third last machine, because either way will violate the well-behaved assumption, right? Okay, so you still can only put it on the last machine, the fastest machine. And then you can adopt a similar argument. You say, okay, the next one should come here, right? And the next one should come here. So it becomes what? It becomes a triangle, right? Okay, so that's why it's square root of m, because if it's triangle, well, you add up all the things together, it should be n, right? But then the fastest machine almost get square root of m objects. The make span is pretty big, right? Okay, so I hope you get the idea. And there's also a very standard technique to derive square root of m ratio, all right? As long as you can align like this, right? You can force the allocation go in this way, the triangle pattern, then it will be a square root of m. 5 can, let me just go back. 5 is going to m minus 1, right? Are you talking about 5, Jinsong? So 5 is here, right? When it's 5, it's indeed going to m minus 1. I guess it involves some detailed calculation, right? According to the design, it should be the case that 5 plus 3 is not larger than 4 plus 2 plus 1. Yeah, the number is sequence, okay? Remember, size is here. Size is here, all right? This is the size, okay? Yeah, very good point, all right? So we are not adding up the index. So this 5 is only index. Okay, so is it good now? Okay, thank you. Okay, so now so what's the mechanism we designed? Well, since we have a very bad lower bound for well-behaved property, we have to relax this well-behaved to some extent, all right? So how to relax? We no longer require that faster machine get higher load. We require that if the machine is fast enough, then it gets a higher load. So this is another kind of approximation we introduced, right? So remember, approximation not only limits to approximation ratio or competitive ratio or something, it also can be used in the relaxation of concepts. For example, in EF1 or proportional, or MMS, we introduce the approximate MMS, right? Alpha MMS, right? So we can use this coefficient to introduce a relaxed fairness or other concepts or other measures. Now here, we are using similar things. Where you're using a gamma to relax the well-behaved concept. We say, okay, if two machines, their speed is different, and then the fast machine is faster than the slower machine by a certain factor. For example, the factor is 2. Now, actually, we choose the gamma to be 2. Okay, so if your speed is doubling the other machine's speed, then you should get a higher workload. All right, so this is another kind of relaxation that is needed. So basically, in this last lecture, I'm trying to share with you the possible directions or alternative approaches you may use when you are tackling your research problems. Now, I guess approximation, this concept will also be used for other domains, even if you are not doing theoretical research. Well, this kind of relaxation will still be useful. All right. Okay. So with this kind of relaxation, then we will do the following. We'll first do pre-processing by rounding each speed to the largest power of 2. Okay. And then we will design a well-behaved mechanism on these rounded speeds and choose for 2 jobs. Now, because you're already rounded, well, very naturally, we will require well-behaved because everyone is at least doubling the speed of the other one, right? Okay, so then it becomes a standard well-behaved scenario, right? Okay, but again, I'm not going to talk about details. I just well, present the general ideas. We are also using posted price for machines. So basically, every machine, it will give you a price, and then, well, it also has a current workload. And then the job will select the machine which minimize her cost, which is the finishing time and the payment he needs to pay, right? And then because jobs see the price, he chooses the machine, right? So there's no incentive for jobs to cheat because, well, anyway, he's choosing he or she is choosing the best one, right? The one which minimizes its own cost, okay? So truthfulness from job side, no worry, right? So the only thing is to design a reasonable price so that the allocation in the end will satisfy this well-behaved property, right? Okay. Now, so this is what we just explained, right? And then how to deal with the multiple machine have the same speed? Well, this one will be a bit tricky. So we need to set prices to be infinity, except the one with minimum make span. Okay, so other other machines, right, with the same speed, larger make span, basically, you do not expect jobs to choose them because choosing them will increase make span a lot, right? So you only, for machines with the same speed, you only focus on the one with the smallest completion time, right? And then you will somehow force the job to go to that machine instead, all right? Okay, so that's a kind of also pre-processing, and therefore now we only need to assume that all the speeds are different, and then you can have different, well, define a price. But again, as I said, I will not go into details. And by doing this kind of price, we are able to show that the mechanism is log M competitive in general. All right. If the and it will be even better. It will be constant competitive if the sizes of online jobs are bounded. Okay. So this is the results we obtained. And then there is also a corollary. This is the scenario where the well, it's truthful, okay? Because just now we said that the mechanism we designed are somewhat well behaved, right? But in some scenarios, it's also truthful for machines. So what scenario? Well, actually very special. One is all the jobs have unit size, and then it's truthful for machines. And then the other one is you only have 2 machines. So as I said earlier, right, these 2 scenarios are very, very special. Well, far from practical use, all right? Okay, so this is the results we have. And actually, there are also some future directions for this combination of 2-sided agents, okay? Now, well, we know that the truthful mechanisms now are only for the very special case, right? Very special case, but we can also have a truthful mechanism for general case, which means not only unit size and not only 2 machines, right? And the following VCG mechanism will be a candidate, but this one is really naive. What's the mechanism? So we sort all the speeds in increasing order, okay? And then we just give all the jobs to the fastest machine, and the payment is the second fastest machine's P. The summation of the jobs. So I guess that I have, well, so there may be some small typo here. So basically, the payment is decided by the second fastest machine. All right. So this is truthful, of course, right? Because your payment does not depend on your own report. And then the ratio is not that good because the ratio could be as bad as M, right? Because you can imagine the case when all the jobs or all the machines have the same speed, and then the ideal case, the optimal solution is giving 1 job to each machine, but in your algorithm, you just collect all the jobs to your own machine, M jobs. So that can be as bad as ratio M. So the natural question is whether you can improve it, right? Okay. All right, so I guess this part I just complete explaining here. And then I would like to share with you some other materials. Let me see the slide. It's a PDF file. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I will only briefly share with you this topic. And actually, this is a let me share the screen first. Let me I already share screen, right? So let me do the full screen mode. Can you see? Can you see the full screen here? Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, no. Oh, I see a bunch of no's. Can you see the PDF? Game theory and scheduling. Okay, right? Not full screen. Oh. Stop sharing first and share again. Is there any full screen option? Yeah, how about this? Can you see the full screen? Oh, okay, good. Yeah, there's some delay here. So this work actually is in last year's NIPS, and I like this work a lot. And so basically, as I promised, today's lecture is trying to study scheduling scenario with all the previous perspectives. So all the previous perspectives means including fair division. All right. So scheduling fair division, what's the relationship? Well, actually, it's quite interesting. All right. So let's see. The background of this problem is the following. Now, suppose you have some of you may need to teach some tutorials or teach some sessions of certain courses, right? And then suppose we already have a schedule of those courses. For example, algorithm courses from 9 o'clock to it covers 9 and 10 o'clock, 2 hours, and the data structures at 10 and 11, right? And the data mining 12, 13. So basically, you already have a schedule of all the courses, and then every person, every tutor has a preference over all the courses. It says, okay, Bob likes to teach algorithms. The preference is 10, and then next one is data structure, right? 8, and then next one C++ Java. And the least is data mining. I don't know, right? Okay, so basically everyone has a preference over all the courses. So now, what's your goal? So your goal is to assign those courses to the tutors, right? So that they will be very happy. Okay, so this is a general idea. Okay. So here is one possible assignment. So you can ask Bob to teach algorithm and data mining and C++, right? Just like the picture shows. And then Alice teach data structures, Java and programming training, etc., etc. So here you see that it's kind of a scheduling problem because you need to make sure the courses allocated to the same person, they should not conflict in time. For example, you cannot allocate algorithm and data structure to the same person because they have overlap in time. Okay. Well, so what's the setting? So the setting, we can just model it as a scheduling problem. What are the jobs? The jobs are those courses. All right. And those courses, they have so-called arrival time deadline. Well, so actually, you may ask me, what is arrival time deadline? Well, arrival time deadline is just kind of flexibility of scheduling, right? For example, algorithm course, maybe it can be scheduled from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, for example, any 2 hours in between will be okay. So that will become a job, right? So you have a feasible range of scheduling this course, and then you can just shift it somewhere, right? Put it somewhere in the middle, right? That will be totally feasible. Okay, and then what's agent, or what are the machines? So machines are those tutors, right? Every tutor you can consider it to be a machine, and the machine, you will allocate jobs to it, but the jobs you allocate to a machine should not have overlap, or you should have a possible schedule or feasible schedule to schedule those courses, allocate to the same machine, right? Without any overlap. Okay, so here, J is the job set, A is the agent set, or a machine set, right? And then utility function of an agent AI will be given, right? And then every job, as usual, you will have a release time RI, processing time PI, and deadline DI, right? Okay. Now, feasible means what? Feasible means they can be scheduled without overlapping in a single machine. And then for one job, JK, for example, and then this agent or machine AI will get a utility, a non-negative utility, if this JK is successfully processed by machine AI. All right. Okay. And then if I give you an arbitrary set, S, all right, and then we say the agent's utility is the largest possible value that she can obtain by processing a feasible subset. So suppose I give you a lot of jobs, right? Job 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? But you cannot squeeze all of them into one machine because that's not feasible. So I'm trying to select the largest subset such that it is feasible And at the same time, the value of this set is as large as possible. Okay. Well, so this UI, the utility function, is not additive. So not additive for what? For an infeasible set. Okay, so if a set is infeasible, then you cannot say, well, I add all the elements together and get a utility. That's not right. So it's not additive. And then computation of this maximum value is NP hard. Okay, so now let me just ask might be a bonus question. Okay, so can anyone figure out why computing the largest feasible set is an NP hard problem, or an NP hard problem? Any idea? Like knapsack. And then Jianwen said, because we need to enumerate. Well, firstly, you need to find a prototype problem, right? So we need to find a prototype problem to reduce to this problem, right? Okay. So now I'm expecting something. So something about your construction of those jobs. So you have well, of course, it's a bit unfair for you because up to now, you may not know many so-called NP hard problems, right? So what do you have in mind about NP hard problems? 3 partition. So Xuezhen said 3 partition. 3 partition. Okay, that's one. Now IOP, well, Jianzong, IOP, in general, it is NP hard, but you cannot simply use IOP to do reduction because, well, this is also some of the earlier in-class exercise, right? So some IOP does not mean hard problem, okay? But IOP contains some hard problems, right? And Xingyan mentioned even odd partition. Oh, okay, what is, even odd partition is actually quite sophisticated. You know this, it's very nice. And actually we can just do a simpler version of the partition. Okay, so there is a problem called partition. So what's the problem of partition? Partition says what? Partition says I have a bunch of numbers, all right? And I know their sum is 2 times B, okay? And then the question is, can you find a subset such that their sum is B, is exactly half the value, half the total value? That's partition. So I hope you get my point, all right? So actually we are reducing from that problem to this scheduling problem. Any idea? Now is the formal start of the bonus. How are you going to construct jobs so as to encode the problem of partition? Remember, partition, the input is a bunch of integers and their sum is 2 times B, and then target is to find a subset of items or numbers such that the sum is B, okay, is half the total sum. Okay, so Xuezhen, you got the general idea correct. Divide S and make you the summation. But the important thing is, how are you going to decide to design the arrival time and deadline of jobs? That's the key point. So Xuezhen, you're already halfway there, all right? But what are the arrival time and deadline of jobs? You're halfway. So now is 0.5. There is another 0.5. How are you going to design those jobs? What are their arrival time deadline? Two players. Oh, actually, don't need to. There's only one player. There's only one player. Oh, very good. I see that. Le Qian said arrival equals 0. Deadline UI. What is UI? Again, Le Qian got half. What is UI? Job's length. That's not right. Okay. Yeah, so we still have half. So I'm giving, oh, very good. Wenjong, you got this half. So basically the deadline is just how to say, mixed span, you can say mixed span, but I probably would say some fixed value, all right? So deadline is just B. So arrival time is 0, deadline is B, okay? So what you see, well, is an interval of length B. And then you try to pack some intervals into this, some jobs into this big interval, right? Such that their sum is B, exactly B, right? So that's exactly the partition problem. Okay, so the reason I make every job's arrival time 0 and deadline B is to make them fully flexible to shift inside the interval. So no matter how they shift, it's okay. All right, it doesn't matter where they move in the big interval, as long as you squeeze well, certain number of items inside the 0 to B interval, and then you have a solution for partition, right? Otherwise, you don't have a solution for partition. Okay, so I hope that you have some idea about how it comes, right? About the reduction. Okay, so I guess I will again pause for 5 minutes, and then we come back to finish the remaining. Now, as usual, as I said, I'm not going to go into very detail of this problem. I'm just trying to share with you some insight or some high level, well, generalization of the traditional fair division concepts to the scheduling domain. All right. Okay, so let's come back after 5 minutes. Okay. So let's continue about the remaining part. Now we talk about schedule, right? Or we say allocation. So we are trying to divide the jobs into several bundles, X1, X2 until XM, and we give XI, the bundle XI, to agent AI, okay? And then we say this schedule or allocation is, well, so this schedule allocation, actually we say it's a ordered partial partition. The reason is it's not necessary for us to allocate all the jobs, okay? So basically some courses, some jobs I can throw it away, all right? The reason we say ordered, because this X1, X2, you cannot swap them because different people have different opinion about the courses. So it's so you cannot swap two bundles in the sequence and make the result the same, right? So that's not feasible. Okay, so or they will be considered as two different allocation. And then we also need to make sure that this Xi, Xj, they do not overlap. All right, you do not give the same job to two different people. Okay, and then we say a schedule is feasible if what? If every bundle Xi is feasible. Okay, you can schedule them without any overlap. But there is a special entity called charity. Okay, so this charity, well, before I continue, I would like to ask you, did I ever mention charity before? Did you remember I mentioned any charity before? This is again another potential bonus. So charity is something in goods partition. Okay, yeah, in goods partition, and more specific. You are right. Yeah, we throw away things. Very yeah. Donation. Let me see. MV free, yeah, Tenzo, you're right. In MV free, right? In MV free setting. So now let me ask a more specific question. MV free up to 1 or MV free up to any, EF1 or EFX? This one is critical. You need to give the reason, all right? So this is some kind of bonus. Yeah, Ping Ping, you are right. Reason, why EFX? So there's some reason behind, right? Why EFX you need donation? So all the first time answer, not all the, most of first time answer in this sequence will get 0.5 bonus. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I already wrote down the name, but yeah, you will see some of you have 0.5 bonus. If you didn't get it, then that means your answer is not quite first in the series. Okay. Okay, so Xuezhen, you got the last one. Okay, so basically, EF1, you do not need to do this because EF1 always exists, right? But EFX, it's very difficult to prove. So that's why when people design or try to figure out whether certain scenario has EFX, they spend a lot of effort. For example, even for 3 people, EFX is already strong enough to go to EC, right? Okay, so you would reward yourself with a good memory. Well, but it's actually not good memory. It's kind of understanding of those concepts in a certain scenario. Okay, so so much about this sequence of bonus. And then we continue. Oh, sorry. So here we also have a charity. So this charity is kind of receiving all the jobs or all the courses which nobody teaches, okay? And then we do not need to guarantee charity is feasible because nobody is teaching them. So even if they overlap in some schedule, it's fine. Basically, we are not scheduling them, all right? We are not scheduling them. Okay. And then just recall what is MMS, right? Max mean share. So max mean share is the same as before. We are trying to find a schedule or allocation such that the minimum utility obtained by anyone is as large as possible. Okay. Now, of course, we are defining this MMSI as from the viewpoint of agent I. Okay, agent I trying to divide into several bundles. Okay, and he thinks, well, his most valueless, or sorry, the worst bundle among the M bundles, right? How much does it count towards agent I? And that value will be the MMS, right? She tried to make the worst bundle as good as possible, right? Okay. So this is MMS. And then a schedule is called MMS schedule if everybody's utility is at least its own MMS, right? Okay, it's still the same. And then we also do relaxation. So if it's called alpha MMS schedule if it's larger than alpha times MMS I, right? Okay. And then we also define MA3. MA3 is also similar, right? I do not envy other people's bundle, right? UIXI larger than or equal to UIXK. So I think, right, agent I thinks its bundle is the best among all the bundles, right? So it's EF. And then you can also have EF1, right? Okay, EF1 means if you are removed, so one item is removed from your bundle, then I'm happy. Okay, so it's EF1 for some item, right? And then you also have some kind of relaxation of EF1, right? Alpha EF1. Now definition will be similar, right? Okay. Now, well, so actually after defining so many things, we actually have trivial EF1 or EF allocation, which is just do not allocate anything because we have charity, right? So we can just say, we do not allocate anything. No, none of you need to teach any course. Well, then people will not be happy because by teaching course, you can write something in your CV, you can accumulate some experience. But if you do not teach it, well, you're not very happy, right? Okay, so this is a very inefficient solution, and therefore, our target is to find the fair schedule, which is also efficient. Okay, so efficient is somehow measured by the Pareto optimal condition. Okay, so what is Pareto optimal? So Pareto optimal, again, it's a review, right? We have seen Pareto optimal in Nash equilibrium, in many other fair division topics. Now here we just review and try to combine it with schedule, right? So basically here, Pareto optimal means there does not exist another schedule which has the following property. So everybody's utility remains the same or above, right? And one of them becomes strictly better, okay? So if there's no such schedule, then we say the original schedule is Pareto optimal. But even Pareto optimal is too demanding in our setting. So that's why we need to study the so-called individual optimal. All right, so the individual optimal is defined, is another efficiency measure, all right? So it's also new here. So what is individual optimal? Individual optimal is the following. You say a schedule, a feasible schedule with a charity is alpha individual optimal if everybody's bundle, the utility is at least alpha times the utility of his own bundle together with the charity. Okay, so which means, well, if I give the charity to you, and then probably you can find out a better combination of items which give you more utility, right? But then individual optimal says, okay, even if you are allowed to do this, then you cannot do much better, okay? You will always guarantee that the one you can achieve by taking up the charity items times alpha will not exceed the utility you get now. Okay, so this is the individual optimal. Now, individual optimal is weaker than Pareto optimal, and also that means we can get stronger results. All right. Okay. Now, here are some results we obtained. Now, for the results, I will usually very briefly mention only. They are not the focus, but I will try to explain maybe one of them today. Now, we show that for any instance of the problem, there exists a 1/3 approximate MMS schedule. All right, and then there's well, if you want to compute it in polynomial time, then the ratio will be a bit worse. Okay, it will be 0.24 minus epsilon approximate MMS. Okay, and then for EF, we show that there exists a schedule with 1/4 EF1, and at the same time, Pareto optimal. Okay, now when your jobs have unit size, unit processing time, then the schedule is half EF1 and PO. Now here you see that well, for dealing with the scheduling problems, sometimes you can assume that the jobs are unit size, right? And then there are also some other terms like rigid or flexible jobs, etc. Later on I will mention a bit. So these are the special scenarios you can introduce compared to the general problem. So that's also one message I would like to bring up. So whenever you when you are doing research or some similar studies, usually you will be facing some general problem. But general problem very likely is very hard to handle. So at that time, you will consider some special cases. But those special cases need to be meaningful, well, justifiable, right? Okay, so if that is true, then you can feel free to go ahead to investigate results for those special cases. Okay. Now, lower bound, all right? So we show that no algorithm can return an EF1 and PO schedule for all instances. That's basically not possible, even for unweighted utility and rigid jobs. So what's rigid jobs? Now, this is not a bonus. Just have a guess. What's rigid jobs? So the meaning of rigid means not flexible, right? Cannot split. Cannot split. Well, job has 3 parameters here, right? Arrival time, deadline, processing time, right? Okay. So what's rigid? Oh, very good. Shenzhen said same length, which means his processing time is exactly deadline minus arrival time. So basically, you need to start right from the arrival time until finish at the deadline. Okay, so you cannot have any rest in between. All right. Okay. So even for such special cases, you cannot compute EF1 or PO and PO schedule. And then the good news is when you have unit processing time and the valuations are identical, then you can compute an EF1 and PO schedule in polynomial time. All right. Now, if we talk about IO, the individual optimal, then the results is well, positive results is stronger. The negative results is weaker. So you see that we only show no algorithm can return an EF1 and IO schedule for all instances, even for weighted utilities and rigid jobs. So you see, in order to get harness results, we can no longer allow unweighted utility. You have to have weighted utility, right? So negative results is a bit weaker. And then positive results is stronger. It says, okay, when the utilities are unweighted and jobs are rigid. Remember, here we do not need unit processing time, identical valuation. We do not need them, right? We only need to guarantee utilities are unweighted and the jobs are rigid. And then you can find EF1 and IO schedule in polynomial time, okay? And there are also other approximate EF1 and IO results. Okay, so now I'm going to very briefly explain some algorithm. So the one for 1/3 MMS. Okay, now I guess I will not go into the proof, but just give you a general feeling about the algorithm. Okay. Now the algorithm is again a so-called backfilling. So still remember what is backfilling? Though I believe that you have memory about the fair division topic when we talk about backfilling. So basically you put items into a bag until somebody say, oh, please stop, I want this bag. And then you just give the bag to the agent, right? Okay, so this is called backfilling. Okay, so backfilling algorithm is doing the following. It says, okay, I fill in the bag with still unscheduled jobs until somebody shouts, okay, I want it because it's already my 1/3 MMS. Then you take it and go away. All right, so you will leave the system. Okay, so it's kind of like this, right? You take item into the bag until somebody shouts. Okay, now actually the backfilling algorithm will work very well if the jobs are small. So in other words, every item has a small utility, smaller than half or 1/3. Okay, and then if you so at the beginning we'll assume that all the items satisfy this criteria, and then you see that the algorithm goes on like this. You will add the unscheduled jobs to the bag in arbitrary order until there is somebody whose value is at least 1/3 MMS. And then you give him a feasible set of the bag. Okay. So because you cannot give all the items to this agent, you have to give a schedule, right? A schedule of items to the agent. And then, so all the jobs that are outside of this S, inside the bag, they are still unscheduled. They can still be allocated to other people. Now, if more than one agent satisfy this criteria, multiple people shout, I want it. And then you can just choose an arbitrary one and give the bag to it. Okay, and then you just repeat until everybody gets a bag. Now, so if everyone can get a bag, then it's definitely 1/3 approximate MMS schedule, right? Okay, so this is it's very certain. Okay, so now we are going to prove that indeed everyone can get one bag. All right, and then equivalently, we are trying to show that at any loop of the backfilling algorithm, there are enough unscheduled jobs left for the unsatisfied agents. Okay, and then we consider the following: a feasible MMS schedule. All right, so this is a feasible MMS schedule for an arbitrary unsatisfied agent. And then, let's look at this figure. All right, let's look at the figure. So this color, JL, right? This is belong to bundle X, bundle 1, right? And then blue one belongs to bundle 2, and the green one belongs to bundle 3. And the pink one belong to bundle 4. And then, there are also some items in the charity. Okay. So I don't know whether I should move on to the proof of this. So maybe a bit heavy. Maybe I will go instead to the proof of another one, which also involves one of the tutorial questions today. What do you think? Would you like to continue this, or maybe we go on to the other algorithm in this slide? So let me just move on a bit. Yeah, it's a bit too, I guess this algorithm is a bit too detailed to explain. Maybe it's better for me to move to the other one. Okay, so any opinion? So let me just do a similar thing. So yes means you would like to continue understanding why it is 1/3 back MMS approximation. The other one is no means you want to go to the other one, which is probably easier to understand. Okay, so I see that the dominating number prefers to go to the other one. Yeah, so let me just follow the majority. Okay. Yeah, so this one, it just needs more time to understand, but I guess that in, well, it might be a bit too heavy. Okay, so let me just skip that. Okay, yeah, so it's here. Okay, so now what's this one? So the second algorithm, which I'm going to explain, is an EF1 and PO algorithm, PO allocation. Okay, so we are dealing with a special case where all the jobs have unit processing time. So every job only takes one slot. Okay, and then all the agents have the same value for the same job. Okay, so well, so this is a very special case. Now, actually, later on will be well generated to a more general case. But now let's just assume that well, for the same job, people's or the tutors' value towards that job will be the same. Okay, and then how to allocate jobs to those tutors or the machines such that it is EF1, and then it's also Pareto optimal. Okay, so for this one, let me draw on whiteboard. So where's the whiteboard? Why do I have an iPhone, iPad option? It's very strange. Oh no, I should not do this. It's a bit strange that I can no longer find an whiteboard option. Oh, it's too strange. Why my desktop does not have this option? Well, but anyway, I guess let me just keep sharing this slide. So basically, the original I'm trying to let you think about the possible approach. So so actually now, if we construct a graph where jobs are on the left and the time slots are on the right, and then what can you do to, well, allocate jobs to machines? Now, one thing is for sure, we want to allocate as many jobs as possible to the agents, because somehow we want to achieve Pareto optimal, right? So what kind of solution will very naturally be Pareto optimal solution? Remember, now every agent will get some jobs, right? Okay, get some jobs. So what kind of solution will be a sure Pareto optimal solution? Now this is a second sequence of bonus. Okay, so let me just get my pen prepared. So what kind of solution will very naturally be a Pareto optimal solution? Remember, our scenario is everybody is getting some job, right? Agent 1 gets some jobs, agent 2 gets some jobs. So If a solution satisfies some criteria, then this solution is automatically Pareto optimal. So what's that very natural criteria? Proportion. Not quite fair, MMS fair. Well, so remember, Pareto optimal is a fairness, well, it's not a fairness measure. So if it's MMS fair, it's not necessarily, well, Pareto optimal, because you may have a chance to give more item to more agents to improve the EF. EF is again a fairness measure, right? So here, let me just complete my story about the construction of the bipartite graph. Okay, so you see, this is a bipartite graph. On one side is jobs. On the other side are time slots. Yeah, maximum welfare. So Jianzhong, actually, you got something. Oh, but I guess so actually, well, the thing is not completed yet. So he gives us a hint, right? Maximum welfare. But what does it mean, right? So let me just continue explaining my construction. All right. So a job connects to a time slot if you can do the job in that time slot. Okay. So you see, J1, it can be done in T1 and T2. J2 can be done in T1 and T2. Right. J3 is only can be done in T2, etc. All right. Okay. So now you also you are trying to find an allocation. So allocation means what? For every slot, I want to give him some jobs, right? Okay, I give him some jobs and give him some job. And this is a kind of special matching. And in this matching, on one side, every node can only go have one edge going out, right? On the other side, there can be many edges coming in, right? Okay, so now it comes back to our question. What kind of allocation will very naturally be Pareto optimal? Remember, in our special case, simplest setting, everyone's value towards the other item is the same. Okay, well, so actually, we can start with the example where all the values are only 1, okay? Yeah, maximal matching, very good. Okay, so Xinran, you will get this half. Okay, so basically we are trying to find a maximum matching, maximum, not more. Okay, the reason is if the cardinality is largest, and then very likely you can well, you cannot improve in any dimension without hurting other dimensions, right? Get my point? So basically, you see that here in this matching, T1 get 2 jobs, right? T1 slot get 2 jobs. T2 slot get 2 jobs. T3 slot get 1 job. Okay, so if this is a so-called maximum matching, which means the degree on the right, the summation of degree on the right is the largest possible. So if this is the case, then it's very unlikely that there is another solution where the degree of one node increases, while the degree of other nodes does not decrease. That's not possible. That's not possible, especially when you don't have weight on the jobs. Okay, so if you don't have weight, so every job is the same for all the people, then you will never have any possibility of breaking this Pareto optimality, right? If you adopt the maximum matching. All right. Now, and Sina, you are right. In fact, we are considering more like a weighted graph problem. Okay, weighted graph. But the rationale will be similar. If it's unweighted graph, I believe this argument is very easy to understand, right? If it's unweighted, every edge has weight 1. And then, well, if I find a maximum cardinality matching, so the degree the degree on the right is the largest possible, then it must be Pareto optimal because you cannot find a better one, right? If you find a better one, that means what? A better one, better in one dimension, better in one t, but do not become worse in other t. Then that will mean an even better matching, right? The cardinality will be even larger, but that's not possible because we already found the maximum cardinality matching. So if the graph is unweighted, then it's very natural. It's already Pareto optimal. How about if the graph is weighted? Then you can just find what? Find what? Maximum weighted matching, right? It's again the same, right? So basically, you can use a matching algorithm to find that Pareto optimal solution. Okay. So, so any question up to now about the matching part? We start from the unweighted case, which means that everybody has the same feeling towards all the item. Okay, every machine has the same feeling towards all the item, and then it's very easy, right? You just do a maximum cardinality matching, and then you do some allocation. We didn't talk about allocation yet, but we'll talk about it very soon. Okay. So unweighted case is easy, and then if you have a solution for unweighted case, when you go to weighted, what you do is simply calculate a maximum weighted matching, right? So those are standard algorithms. So if you find a maximum weighted matching, well, very likely you can still solve the problem, right? You can still solve the problem. Well, so now, remember one difference. This T is not agents. This T is what? So this matching is trying to figure out which items I want to allocate, all right? So for each time slot, if you have M agents, you can only match to it M edges, right? You cannot match M plus 1 edges. That's not feasible, right? So time slots, every time slot, you can only be matched by M edges at most. Okay, so that's why we call it a B matching. Okay, here B is M. Is equal to M, all right? But as I said, this T is not agent, it's time slot. So this matching is only telling us which items we want to allocate. But how to allocate, it's another stage, all right? How to allocate is another stage. Okay, so now you already partitioned all the jobs into groups, and each group has something to do with the same time slot, right? So for people in the same time slot, how to allocate? Let's see. Okay, so the way to allocate actually is also not difficult. So we can move on from slot to slot. Whenever we are in a new time slot, and now we have what? We know that the agents, they are somehow sorted according to their current utility, right? For example, we have 7 agents here. A1 has the smallest utility, A2 has a second smallest, and so on, right? And the items matched to that time slot have some values, right? Have some values. Now remember, the scenario we're dealing with is that everyone has the same opinion towards the same job, right? Okay, so these jobs value, they are somehow fixed. And then we can order all these jobs according to their values in decreasing order. And then very naturally, we can give A1 the most valuable item, right? A2, the second most valuable item, and so on. By doing this kind of allocation, we can very naturally guarantee it is EF. It's EF1 allocation. Okay, not only PO, right? PO is somewhat guaranteed by the maximum matching part, right? It's Pareto optimal. Okay, so if we successfully assign all the match jobs, it's definitely Pareto optimal. Okay, but EF takes some time. So can you see why it is why it is EF1? So actually, this is the well, the previously scheduled tutorial question I would like to explain to you today. Okay, but since we are already explaining this slide, so I don't need to show that question. Okay, so I see that yeah, largest weight can throw the largest weight can prove it. Okay, yeah, so yeah, we somehow can prove by iterations, right? Every iteration, you are guaranteeing the EF1, right? So like Jianzhong said, and Xingran, right? So they're following this similar and correct direction. So basically, for this EF1, which item do you remove? Well, actually, I remove the most valuable item, right? So in this round, yeah, because in each round, the number of items may not be equal to the number of agents waiting. So it could be the case that there are only 3 items in this slot, and then only these 3 get the item, right? The others didn't get the item. So if I remove the newly assigned item from them, then other people will not envy them, right? Will not envy them. So it's totally okay, right? It's totally fine. So yeah, so I guess well, the proof is just a bit more, a bit longer than this. It's a very simple proof, right? Removing the item assigned you to in this current round will always guarantee the EF1 property. And then actually, when you go on to future slots, always the one with the smallest utility, they get item first. So well, they will not envy other people by more than one item, right? More than one item. Well, but there are some kind of slightly detailed writing needed, but in general, the reasoning is like this. Okay, it's like the reasoning for the round robin or greedy algorithm in the standard fair division scenario. So the major thing that is new here is that before you do this kind of allocation, you need to find a maximum matching first. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess we'll just complete the story here. All right. And then there are some future works which are interesting, but I'm not going to explain them here. Actually, so some of them are quite natural. So I think that this will be today's remaining part. Okay, so I will leave the remaining time for questions. There are about 15 more minutes. So any question about the last topic, scheduling, and also any question about the previous topics are welcome. And also, I would like to know whether you would need another Q&A time next week before the final exam. If yes, then what time will be most suitable? Next week, we don't have lecture. It's already exam. So we have, so this week is for week 14. We are making up the one earlier week's lecture, right? Okay, Xuezhen suggested the evening before the exam. So let me check my schedule whether I have anything there. It's 27. Yeah, I think it's fine. So anyone, well, any objection about 27? So how about we make April 27 evening, say 8 to 9:30, 1.5 hours to be the Q&A time. Will that time be good for everyone? Let me write down the schedule. Okay. So then let's tentatively decide the Q&A time to be that time, next Wednesday evening, starting from 8 o'clock. In-class exercise questions, I'm not going to explain. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not going to explain that. But as I said in the last lecture, the answers for tutorial 2, you don't need to include it in the submission to in-class exercise part 2, because we already explained the answers. So you don't need to submit the answers. You only need to submit answers to the real in-class questions. And actually, for those in-class questions, the answers well, because the deadline for in-class questions are next Wednesday, so it seems not quite necessary to release the answers. Yeah, you're right. We have 3 in-class exercises for the second part. Oh, okay. Yanling is asking a very good question. Will the hard question in final exam be as hard as assignment 3? Well, the hardest part will be as hard as assignment 3. The hardest part is 10 points. But yeah. Well, maybe I should not say that. But yeah, because I also don't know how difficult that is. But I think that according to my guess, it might be. But again, the scope of the questions are quite clear. So even if it might be, you can still give sufficient preparation for that. Otherwise, it's basically impossible. Yeah, assignment 3 you can refer to paper, but for exam, you cannot. Yes, you're right, but you can refer to paper earlier than exam. Yeah. So definitely, you need to read papers to do assignment 3. And then by reading those papers to do assignment 3, you may also want to give some preparation about other potential papers, right? But of course, you cannot say, I just read all the papers. That's not worthwhile. And then, so given the scope I give in the last lecture, I think that you will have a good feeling about which paper to read or what things to look into. For example, so just one example, you somehow should be able to prove upper bounds and lower bounds. For example, in facilitation games, right? Or approximation algorithms. So you should know some basic things. And at least if I ask you, well, please prove that no deterministic strategy proof mechanism can achieve a certain ratio for a certain problem. And they know you need to know what I'm talking about, right? For example. So this is the only example, all right? And then let me see, there are some other questions. Let me double check. Okay, what we was asking about the scope of the exams. Actually, in the last lecture, we already mentioned the type of questions or which topic the question maps to, right? So it's not limited to the last 4 classes. at least we have an online algorithm. Oh, sorry, no. Is it online? Oh, at least we have an approximation algorithm question, right? It's not in the last 4 classes. And the others, I guess, should be pretty clear, right? The 2 challenging come from fair division and facilitation. The 4th, I don't know whether the 4th question is facilitation or fair division, because well, they will be the last 2, right? This is for sure. And it doesn't matter which one comes earlier, because I suppose you will decide or judge which one is more challenging and which ones to work on first. I would say, one of them, if you do sufficient preparation, it's not difficult. It's not very difficult. The other one seems a bit new. So even if you do sufficient preparation, it will still be difficult. But well, yeah. So Xuezhen is asking a question about whether you should focus on simpler settings in facilitation game. You can say so in some sense. All right. Especially some of you asked me whether season 2 or beyond will be tested. So I leave this for your own judgment. Okay. So basically, the later the seasons, the less probability it will appear in the final exam. Okay. So you can decide which part to look further into. Yeah. So today's lesson is the new materials of today's lesson is over. So feel free to leave. And yeah, so basically the question answering will be continuing for some time. The slide of the guest lecture is in the Canvas, but the name is not in the traditional naming routine of this course. So it is called some CTU, right? March 2022 CTU. Okay. Do you need to remember those lemmas in the last 2 lectures, or just knowing how to prove them roughly is enough? Oh, I believe you don't need to remember those lemmas, because if you are asked to do something or prove something, they will tell you what to prove, right? For example, you need to prove that this following algorithm can give you an EF1 schedule, right? Okay, so what you need to do, you need to know how to prove, right? But you don't need to remember those lemmas. Okay. Yeah, and actually, well, this semester we don't have. Actually, I didn't manage to cover all the things. There is one very interesting subtopic I didn't cover. But that's not a big thing. So Xinran is asking, in the chore setting, there are two kinds of round robin. One is pick the least cost. The other is pick the largest cost item in ideal setting. I'm not quite sure. So the one we explained in the lecture is something like now, I guess in these two round robin algorithms, the order of picking will be different, right? And also, I guess one of, yeah, because picking the least cost or picking the largest cost first, it is more useful in guaranteeing EFX. But for MMS, if the order is totally reversed, I think it should not make much difference. Let me open the slide, page 48. $48. Oh, okay. Smallest item. Yeah. So let me look at the 80. Yeah. So about 80, right? So about 80, you can also imagine it is picking the smallest first. The only difference is just the order of picking, as I mentioned, right? So yeah, naturally, if you ask agents to pick in the round robin way, it will always pick the smallest cost one. So this is by nature, right? Because everyone wants the cost of himself to be small. So natural round robin will be picking the smallest one. And then when you talk about picking sequence in around page 80, then, well, so you can understand the process as if you do 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, then it is always picking the largest cost item. But if it's 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, then they are picking the smallest first. So basically, these two round robins can be somehow switched to each other, right? It will not make a difference, I think. But you need to guarantee that these round robin, when you implement them, you are well reversing the picking sequence if you change from largest cost to the smallest cost. I hope I answered your question. Okay, yeah, good. Bid and take for prop X. Bid take prop X. Yeah, so what's your question? Bid and take. Yes, I think if you don't sort the cost, it could guarantee prop 1. I think yes. Yeah, because if you can remove an item you choose, then you can remove the last one, right? But prop X means removing anyone, so you need to guarantee the last one is smallest. Oh, okay. That's an interesting question, but I guess you have the answer because for ideal instance, you can get prop X, right? But then we have a lemma saying if for ideal you can get prop X, then in general you can also get prop X, right? So remember that it's in about page 62 in that slide. Right? So basically ideal is already powerful enough. Basically any good algorithm for IDO, they can be switched to good algorithm for general case. So I hope I answered the question. Yeah, so did you find the page 62? This one? You can see my sharing, right? So the only thing we need to do is to find prop X solution in ideal instance. All right, with that, we can apply the same picking sequence to ask the agent to pick in the original instance and get a prop X. Okay, so so that's the way to solve the general case. We solve the ideal instance first, and then using the sequence we generated to solve the original or general instance. Okay. Okay, so any other questions? Yeah, sure. Yanning is asking, will the proof about the picking sequence be considered as a hard problem? I think yes. At least it's a part of the hard problem, part of a potential hard problem. Okay. Okay. Any other question? Now, if no more questions, then yeah, I need to thank you for all your support throughout the semester, and then see some of you next Wednesday, and see all of you in the exam time, and wish you success and get your ideal grade. Thank you. So for fair division, I will only test you on picking sequence. This page 62, and the other picking sequence. Yeah, it's not necessarily MMS. It's about picking sequence. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then thank you, and see you next week. There was more question. In-class question, one lecture on lecture of cooperative game, page 17. Let me see. Cooperative game, page 17. Yeah. So what's your VSAC mean? Oh, okay. So BSAC, now let me share this screen. So SA is super additive, right? So basically this item, this bullet is trying to say that if your game is not super additive, you can transform it into super additive, right? And then the way to transform, now original valuation is V, right? You make it, you change it to VSA, and VSA is defined on top of V, all right? And then this is all the possible split of C, okay? So this max, because you see C1 up to CK in PC, right? So that means C1 to CK is in, well, this PC is the space of all the partition of C. So basically you enumerate over all the possible partition and then add up their value. And which value is largest, you take which value. Okay. So basically you will force the whole thing to be super additive because you are taking the largest one. So there's no chance that it's not super additive. So I hope I explained clearly. This C1 to CK runs over all the possible partition of the C. Is it okay? Yeah, great. You're welcome. Okay. Yeah. And then thank you all. See you next week. Now, meanwhile, feel free to send me email if you found questions earlier than Q&A time. Okay. Thank you.